You're going to pay for my pain and suffering. The reason? Because you couldn't stay beautiful.
Dad, what are you talking about? My name is Michelle. Right now, I feel a sense of achievement like never before. Today, I finally paid off my mortgage. My husband, Daniel, and I got a loan right after we got married. A 35-year mortgage that we equally split between the two of us. We managed to save a bit of money since the land belonged to my grandfather, and we got permission to use it. But still, paying back the loan was a challenge. Ever since our daughter Lisa, now a high schooler, was born, I had been constantly juggling housework, childcare, and work with no time to rest. Daniel isn't good at housework, so I ended up doing most of it. But I could only do this because I work from home. I spent a lot of time at home and somehow managed to take care of the housework.
Just because you're home doesn't mean I'll dump all the work on you. I'll cover more of the finances. Just trust me.
Daniel initially promised to contribute more financially. But this promise only lasted a few years. His attitude changed about 3 years into our mortgage repayment and after Lisa was born.
You've got it easy, being at home all day. I bet you take naps all day when you're not up in the night with Lisa. You're home all day. At least get the housework done.
Daniel belittled my work from home job, thinking of it as a relaxed way to earn some pocket money. That said, even working from home has deadlines. And earning enough to help pay off the mortgage while taking care of household chores and childcare is not an easy task. But Daniel didn't understand that. Honestly, I thought of leaving Daniel multiple times. There was even a time when I brought up divorce. But Daniel tearfully apologized and refused, and we had Lisa. I didn't want a divorce to negatively impact Lisa's future career or marriage prospects. So I held back and have been trying my best until now.
Ah, you paid off half the mortgage. Then, could you sign this divorce paper?
Strangely, Daniel asked for a divorce the moment the mortgage was paid off. We were celebrating our mortgage payoff at a fancy restaurant as a family of 3. I had dressed up a bit more than usual and was enjoying a delicious meal. That's when Daniel took out the divorce papers. There had been no signs until then. Mom, congratulations on paying off the mortgage. Thank you. Now we need to start saving for retirement. Oh no, does this mean we can't splurge? Hey, of course. We also need to save for things like your future study abroad program. Thanks, I'll help with saving, so let me know what I can do. That's how Lisa and I were talking. We were already saving, but without the mortgage, we could save more quickly. So we were talking optimistically about how we'd spend our money in the future. Lisa's a high schooler now, and it was really moving to see that we could have this deep of a conversation. But then,
you know, I can't see you as a woman anymore, Michelle. I mean, the way you're working your tail off, it's a total turnoff, you know? I just can't deal with it anymore. I'm planning on marrying this young woman I'm seeing now, so could you move out?
Daniel just suddenly blurted this out. He just kept talking, oblivious to the shock on Lisa's and my faces.
The girl's name is Amelia. Want to see a picture? Isn't she cute? Totally different from you, Michelle. Even when she's working, she looks like she's having fun and doesn't seem stressed. A real social butterfly, you know? Nothing like you.
Wait a minute. The reason I worked so hard was to pay off our family's mortgage. Do you have any idea how tough it is to pay half the mortgage on a work-from-home salary? And wasn't I busy because of all the housework? You never did any of it, Daniel.
Well, housework is a woman's job, isn't it? I'm just no good at it.
I wasn't good at housework either, but I did my best for our family. We finally paid off our mortgage, so now's our chance, right? Then why are you saying this? When we bought the house and I suggested we divorce, you refused. You said, Lisa's still here, so please don't divorce me.
I've changed my mind since then.
In response to my words, Daniel retorted, looking irritated. Despite being in a nice restaurant, the atmosphere between us was just awful.
Well, what can I do? Younger women are just more attractive. Sure, the economic power you showed in paying off the mortgage with your work-from-home job was appealing, but you just can't compete with youth.
That's terrible. Dad, that's awful. It's rude to Mom. Apologize.
Lisa doesn't get it yet, huh? But you get it, right, Michelle? Women are like appliances. Newer models perform better, and everyone wants them, right?
Comparing me to an appliance? How rude.
Well, I don't have any feelings for you anymore, so it's only natural that I say rude things, right? And as for not divorcing, for Lisa's sake, well, I might have said that at the time, but that was just an excuse.
Daniel was saying some unbelievable things, but before I could even comprehend them, he kept going on with his arguments.
At that time, I thought it would be better to use Lisa's name to prevent a divorce. I thought that it would make you reconsider. But in reality, I wasn't thinking about Lisa at all. I was just refusing to let go of someone who would do the housework for me.
Can you really say that in front of Lisa? What kind of parent are you?
Huh? What does being a parent have to do with anything? I've always prioritized myself. I'll sacrifice myself for my child's sake. That's just self-satisfaction, right? Don't drag me into that.
What Daniel was saying was unbelievable. Sure, Daniel had always been a bit selfish, but I thought he was still fulfilling his responsibilities as a parent. I never imagined he would say something like this in front of Lisa.
Well, look, I feel bad about leaving a woman your age all alone, just like you. That's why I'm giving you all our assets.
Daniel said. Dad, what are you talking about? You just told me to leave a while ago. Lisa retorted.
That's why I'm saying I'm giving you the money, but in exchange, I'm taking the house. Consider it as alimony.
Daniel stated. Alimony? Why would Mom have to pay that? Shouldn't you be the one to pay for having an affair with a younger woman? Lisa challenged.
It's not like that, Lisa. Your mom is at fault here, too. Let's see. The reason for the alimony can be the crime of not staying pretty, right? Oh, and let's add the crime of prioritizing daughter over husband.
Daniel laughed out loud, taking a sip of his drink. Lisa was angry at Daniel's demeanor, but for some reason, I felt calm. Calm? Or perhaps my thoughts were just frozen because I couldn't comprehend what was happening. It was beyond my understanding. Daniel felt like an alien to me. Daniel said,
I'm giving you all the money.
But because of prioritizing mortgage repayments, there isn't much cash left. Yet he plans to give that away and keep the house for himself? And the alimony is for not being able to stay pretty and for prioritizing Lisa? I can't comprehend what he's saying at all. I was desperately trying to figure out what to say to this alien like Daniel. I guess involving lawyers and our parents would be realistic. I was about to speak when Lisa beat me to it. By the way, Dad, is this young woman you're talking about the one living about 5 stations away from here? She's a bit older than me, right? You met her about 3 months ago, didn't you? What?
How do you know that, Lisa?
Ignoring our surprise, Lisa went on, looking at her smartphone. Well, you see, my friend's dad also got involved in a similar trouble recently. A woman suddenly approached him saying, "Look at me, not your wife." But that dad promptly discussed it with his wife, so they could see through the woman's intentions and kept her at bay. Unlike our dad, he was wise.
Lisa, how can you talk to me, your father, like that?
Daniel was fuming. What? I'm just telling the truth. By the way, I heard that the situation at my friend's house was also quite difficult. The relationship between the couple was strained for a while. But what's important is what comes next. It seems this Amelia lady targets all men who have girlfriends or wives. What? What do you mean, Lisa? What are you saying? I was confused.
Watch your words about Amelia. I won't forgive you, even if you're my daughter.
Daniel threatened, but Lisa remained unperturbed. She then showed a few photos from her smartphone. Look at this. The first photo is of my club senior being approached by her. The second is a classmate of mine being approached. Both of them have girlfriends, and she told them, "Look at me, not your girlfriend."
What? What does that mean?
Well, she seems to enjoy stealing other people's men. She doesn't like Dad. She just likes the thrill of stealing. Lisa revealed. Daniel seemed shocked by Lisa's words. He was silent for about a minute, just staring blankly. But eventually, he seemed to regain his senses. He retorted back at Lisa with a desperate expression.
No, Amelia isn't that kind of person. Don't spread such lies. I love her, and Amelia loves me too. Stop making false accusations just because you're a high schooler.
Even high schoolers know a thing or two, you know. The one who doesn't know anything is you, right, Dad? What was the reason for alimony again? The sin of prioritizing your daughter over looking good? What is that? Some new kind of stand-up comedy joke? It's not funny at all.
What the? That's no way to talk to your parent. You're being disrespectful.
Then, Dad, you're being really rude to Mom, aren't you? Claiming alimony for weird reasons? I mean, the house is in Mom's name, right? And about the mortgage, Mom was the one who paid more under the guise of child support, right? The contributions to the household chores are also vastly different. If you really want to divorce, you should pay the cost of the house, which is under Mom's name, right? Of course, that includes the full price of the land. And the one who should leave the house after paying the alimony while having fun with Amelia is you, Dad. At Lisa's words, Daniel seemed to be lost for words. Perhaps somewhere in his mind, he realized he was at a disadvantage. However, he didn't seem to want to admit it at all. He argued back desperately at Lisa.
You just don't want a divorce and are making stuff up. Amelia has a stealing husband hobby, huh? It's useless to try to trick me with such lies. Amelia told me I was her destiny.
Yeah, whatever. It seemed Lisa had no interest in Daniel's rebuttal. She was looking at the menu excitedly, wondering what was coming next. On the other hand, Daniel, his face turning red, continued to complain to Lisa.
Amelia and I are bound by true love, and you guys are the devils trying to interfere with that. You could even pay the alimony as an apology for that.
Oh, wow, really? I didn't know that. Amazing. You really know a lot, not being a high schooler and all. If you insist on that, why not involve a lawyer?
What?
I mean, you think you're right, don't you? But Mom won't be able to accept such an absurd claim, right?
Well, yes, that's true. I think it's impossible to accept such a nonsensical claim for alimony, but...
Great then. Great. Well then, let's at least fill out the divorce papers. We can get the seal when we get home, right? And we'll submit it tomorrow. Then we'll get a lawyer involved for alimony and property division at a later date. All right, it's settled. Now it's about time for dessert. I'm looking forward to it.
I was initially taken aback by Daniel's incomprehensible statement, but his words gave me courage. Regardless of what kind of woman this Amelia was, I could no longer love Daniel. Daniel, too, wouldn't be able to live with us from now on. If that's the case, there's only one thing to do. All right, I'll sign it then. I signed the divorce papers that Daniel had brought. The three of us then silently finished our last dessert and left the restaurant. The following day, the three of us went to the city hall to submit our divorce papers. The divorce was successfully finalized, and Daniel and I started living in separate weekly rental apartments. Of course, I was with Lisa. After a while, we each hired lawyers and started discussing the divisions of assets and alimony. However, there was no lawyer who would acknowledge Daniel's claim that I couldn't stay beautiful and I prioritized our daughter over him. Daniel's liability was recognized. Even Daniel, who had refused to listen to Lisa and me, seemed weak when spoken to by a lawyer. In the end, he honestly admitted his fault. Ultimately, the divorce was finalized with Daniel renouncing his share of the property. Also, the house would now solely be in my name. This seemed to have been influenced by Daniel's long-standing neglect of household chores. In any case, it turned out to be the best result for Lisa and me. Oh, I don't need any money. I've got Amelia. You guys can just cling to that old house once you've finished your 35-year mortgage. I'm starting a new life. Daniel was bluffing like that till the end. However, unfortunately, Daniel was not able to start this new life. As it turned out, that young woman was just as Lisa had described. Amelia, it seems, likes to toy with men who are already in relationships or married. So Daniel got dumped as soon as we separated, apparently because she lost interest. Of course, this was unexpected for Daniel. Having lost his assets and the love he believed in, a flustered Daniel immediately sought to reconcile with me. Michelle, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You're the only one for me, and I'm the only one for you, right? What are you talking about? I'm tired of doing housework for you. Plus, I don't think I can stay beautiful in the future. And of course, I plan to prioritize Lisa and myself over you. I can't afford to be sued for alimony again, so reconciliation is out of the question.
Absolutely out of the question. Being rejected so brutally must have been a shock to Daniel. Since then, I've received no contact from him. Now I've moved out of the weekly rental, and am happy living in my own home, having paid off the mortgage with just Lisa. Lisa will soon start preparing in earnest for college entrance exams. Of course, I plan to support her with everything I have.
Glenn, say liar, liar, pants on fire. If someone breaks a promise or tells a lie, their pants are supposed to catch on fire, I said, wondering afterwards if I had gone a bit overboard. But lessons taught in childhood are that important. Perhaps a bit of exaggeration in my admonition would have a greater impact. It's all for Glenn's sake, after all. However, Glenn's face turned red with anger at what I said. At first, I thought it was just typical defiance, but it was something else. Why don't Mom's pants catch on fire, then? Is Mom a liar too? Why would only my pants catch on fire? Glenn, how dare you speak to me like that? Even though I had a rough past, I couldn't overlook such disrespect towards a parent. Raising my voice instinctively, Glenn, not wanting to be outdone, barked back, tears nearly in his eyes. It's true. Mom is a liar. So, it's only fair if Mom's pants catch on fire too. I'm not lying. As he yelled, he became overwhelmed with emotion. Eventually, he burst into tears, shouting, I hate Grandma. She's stupid. This left me at a loss. What should I do? As I panicked, uncharacteristically unsure of myself, I heard rapid footsteps from behind. I finally caught up. It seems she was worried and had followed me. My daughter Emerson entered the living room, freezing for a moment at the sight. A crying grandson. And a flustered grandma. To an outsider unaware of the circumstances, it was clear who the villain was. Rushing to explain, I said, It's a misunderstanding. But seriously, calling your parent a liar isn't right, is it? Oh, is that so? Apparently, Emerson hadn't heard the exchange. Stunned, Emerson listened as I explained everything without omission. After hearing it all, Emerson clapped her hands, seemingly convinced. I see. But it seems like Glenn isn't exactly lying, is he? Then, squatting down like me but with a calm demeanor unlike mine, she spoke gently to Glenn. Hey, Glenn. There must be a reason you called your mom a liar, right? A reason. Yes, a reason. Might be hard to explain reason to someone in the early grades. Can you tell me, Glenn, why you think Mom is a liar? Glenn fell silent for a moment but soon said, Wait here, and ran off somewhere. After a while, he returned, holding something that looked like a crumpled piece of paper. My name is Mahalia. I'm a self-employed owner of a small delivery service. I was blessed with 2 children by my husband, who sadly passed away in a traffic accident 25 years ago. When my eldest son, Connolly, was 6 and my daughter, Emerson, was 3. I was determined to make sure that the prejudice of being raised by a single mother wouldn't lead them to feel deprived in any way. After my husband's death, I worked tirelessly, continuing to run the delivery service he left behind. As someone who lost their husband in a traffic accident, it's an ironic twist of fate, but maybe it's because they grew up watching my struggles, or perhaps they had their own childlike thoughts about it. Connolly and Emerson never complained about our situation. Instead, they took the initiative to help me out from a young age. In elementary school, they would take on all the household chores I couldn't manage, and by middle school, they were sorting packages within their capabilities. By the time they were in high school, Connolly had decided to pursue a career with a national delivery company after graduation, while Emerson acquired accounting skills during her high school years. Connolly aimed to learn the know-how to stabilize my business, and Emerson intended to assist in managing my company after her graduation. Honestly, as a parent, I had hoped they would graduate from college and pursue their futures without worrying about my circumstances. But I can't say I'm not delighted by their sentiments, and I gratefully accepted their kindness. Despite their unity, the two actually have opposite personalities. Connolly is quiet and serious, much like my husband, while Emerson is spirited and assertive, resembling me. Yet, living under the same roof of our family home, their contrasting personalities might have played a part in keeping their sibling relationship strong to this day. Beyond gender and personality, there's another difference between them: marital status. A few years after joining his current company, Connolly married a woman named Ashley whom he met through work, and 2 years later, they were blessed with a child. A son who looks just like Connolly, named Glenn. With the whole family living in the family home, Ashley moved in with us from the beginning of her marriage, and the arrival of Glenn made our home even livelier. Ashley, now a part of our family, is a reserved and considerate woman, a stark contrast to myself and Emerson. This difference initially caused quite a bit of confusion. It would be more accurate to say I didn't know how to interact with her. However, that feeling of awkwardness quickly dissipated because she took initiative in household chores and worked hard. Ashley and Emerson call each other by nicknames and get along well. I secretly hoped Emerson would start to desire marriage after seeing her brother's marriage and the birth of her nephew, but I remember her contradictory statement while bouncing little Glenn on her knee.
Maybe marriage isn't for me. Our life seems better suited to working, and besides, I don't know how to deal with kids.
Even though she says she doesn't know how to interact with them, the fact remains that Emerson takes care of Glenn whenever Ashley or I are busy, and Glenn is particularly fond of Emerson. Our family, seemingly without troubles and with good relationships, appeared to be sailing smoothly. However, none of us, except perhaps the person who caused it, could have imagined that cracks would begin to appear in our peace. It was around the time Glenn started elementary school. Suddenly, Ashley expressed a desire to return to work. Probably, she planned to go back once Glenn, who had been a toddler requiring constant attention, became a somewhat more independent elementary school student. Both Emerson and I, being work-oriented, understood her desire to work. We sent her off with our blessings. Initially, I thought she would opt for a part-time job, but Ashley chose full-time employment. Moreover, her hours were irregular, sometimes returning late at night or early in the morning. Ashley had been the one to take the lead on household chores, but with her working, Emerson and I had to take over those responsibilities. Especially for me, having more free time compared to when I was raising children, I took the initiative in taking care of Glenn. I wonder if Ashley is okay. Emerson would sometimes express concern for her brother's family. Connolly often spends days away from home as a long-haul driver, and Ashley's work hours are irregular. Even though we're taking care of the household chores and looking after Glenn, there's probably worry about whether these factors might cause a rift in the family dynamics.
It'll be fine. Ashley is a good wife, and she does come home, after all.
That's true, but even though Emerson's response was vague, I understood what she was implying. She suspected Ashley might be having an affair.
Don't worry. Living with in-laws can be stressful, and she's probably just venting at work. I wouldn't know, though, having never experienced it myself.
I tried to laugh it off, but it seemed Emerson's suspicions didn't clear up. She gave a non-committal, maybe, in a way that was unlike her. Emerson's bad feeling turned out to be true a few weeks later, in an unexpected revelation. That day was the start of Connolly's month-long business trip out of state, a trip that had been planned in advance. Coincidentally, Ashley also had a work trip scheduled for 2 nights and 3 days starting the same day. Emerson was openly suspicious, but I thought it was just a coincidence and didn't worry too much about it. In fact, I was more concerned about Glenn, since it was the first time both parents would be gone for such a long period. However, my worries were unfounded. Glenn woke up at his usual time, ate breakfast as usual, and went to school as if nothing had changed, despite his parents' absence. He would come home, throw his bag down, and then go out to play with friends until the evening, maintaining his usual routine. Just as I was feeling relieved about this, something odd happened. I find this strange. I noticed it while preparing dinner. There was something slightly off about the contents of the refrigerator. Something is missing. I looked around and realized what it was. There was only one pudding left from the ones we received from a client the day before yesterday. When I put them in the fridge, I told Emerson and Glenn.
2 each, but you can only have 1 during snack time each day.
Despite this, of the 8 puddings we chilled, only 1 remained. Since Emerson, Glenn, and I each had ours during snack time yesterday and today, the 2 that were supposed to be left were for Ashley. It's worth mentioning that Connolly, who dislikes sweets and wasn't counted due to the expiration date issue, wasn't considered in this equation. Mom? What's going on? You're leaving the fridge open. That's a waste of electricity, isn't it? Just then, Emerson appeared in the kitchen. A secret thought crossed my mind, something like the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime, a cliché from detective dramas. Given Emerson's demeanor, it seemed unlikely she was the culprit. If she were, she'd better pursue a career in acting rather than accounting. Just checking something. But this didn't fully clear Emerson of suspicion. Yet, feeling somewhat like a detective myself, I couldn't show my hand just yet and closed the fridge as if nothing had happened. Watching her mother's behavior with suspicion, Emerson uttered a disinterested, "Huh," as if she had lost interest. Likely she had come for a drink in the first place. She opened the fridge door that had just been closed. But she seemed to notice the oddity too and quickly closed it again. "Hey, Mom. Did you by any chance eat Ashley's pudding?" "Of course not." I raised my voice, forgetting for a moment that I had even suspected Emerson. With her eyebrows furrowed, Emerson seemed to have only meant it as a check. "No need to get so defensive. I was just asking." "Right, sorry. But that means..." This behavior suggested Emerson likely wasn't our culprit. That left only one possible suspect. At that moment, I felt a gaze on me. Turning around, there was Glenn, peeking out from behind something. Politely enough, he had a bit of pudding residue at the corner of his mouth, which hadn't been there when snack time ended. Our eyes met. As soon as our gazes crossed, Glenn dashed off like a scared rabbit. Convinced I had found the perpetrator, I immediately gave chase. "Hey, Glenn! Wait up!" What ensued was a chase. But it was ultimately a child against an adult. Soon, the little escapee was cornered in a corner of the living room. "Glenn, don't you have something to say before you try to run?" Glenn was silent, looking for an escape but finding none. "Glenn, you ate Mom's pudding, didn't you?" "I did not," he denied fervently, unaware of the incontrovertible evidence on his face. "Don't lie. You've got pudding on your mouth." In a panic, he tried to wipe away the evidence. Such honest reactions are, perhaps, characteristic of children. But that didn't mean it was excusable. I squatted down to look Glenn in the eye, making as scary a face as possible without making him cry, and admonished him. "Glenn, say liar, liar, pants on fire. If you break promises or tell lies, everyone's pants will catch on fire," I said, thinking afterwards maybe I had gone a bit too far. But I've heard that lessons in childhood are important. Perhaps a bit of exaggeration might have a bigger impact. It's all for Glenn's sake. However, for some reason, Glenn's face turned red with anger. I thought it was just typical defiance at first, but it wasn't. "Then why don't Mom's pants catch on fire? Is Mom a liar too? Why should only my pants catch on fire?" "Glenn, how dare you speak to your parent like that?" Even for someone with my past, I couldn't overlook such disrespect towards a parent. Raising my voice unintentionally, Glenn, not wanting to be outdone, barked back with tears nearly in his eyes. "It's true. Mom is a liar. So, it only makes sense if Mom's pants catch on fire too. I'm not lying." As he yelled, he became overwhelmed with emotion. Eventually, he burst into tears, shouting, "I hate Grandma. She's stupid. Look what you've done, Mom. You've made Glenn cry." It seems Emerson was concerned and had followed. Entering the living room with a teasing tone, Emerson caught up. "It's a misunderstanding. But really, calling your parent a liar isn't exactly nice, is it?" "True. But it seems like Glenn isn't exactly lying either, is he?" Squatting down like me, but in a calmer manner, she gently addressed Glenn. "Hey, Glenn. There must be a reason you called Ashley Mom a liar, right?" "A reason?" "Yes, a reason." Might be hard to explain reason to someone in the early grades. Can you tell us, Glenn, why you think Mom is a liar, to me or Grandma?" After a moment of silence, Glenn quickly said, "Wait here," and ran off. He returned after a while, holding something that looked like a crumpled piece of paper. "What's that?" At first glance, it looked like nothing more than trash. Still half crying, Glenn carefully unfolded it, and what appeared made us even more puzzled. Is this Ashley's work schedule? Yes, it was indeed Ashley's genuine work schedule. From last month. How this connected to being called a liar wasn't immediately clear. Wait a second. Could this mean? Emerson seemed to realize something right away. And Glenn, understanding that his message had been conveyed, nodded vigorously several times. Mom, these red days marked off were when you said you were going to work. These are days off, right? Days off mean no work, right? That's right. You figured it out, Glenn. Emerson hugged a still nearly tearful Glenn tightly. Calmed by the embrace, Glenn smiled slightly in her arms. I stood there, stunned, as if left behind. No, maybe my brain was refusing to comprehend. Continuing over Emerson's shoulder, Glenn spoke. Grandma, I'm not lying, okay? Sometimes Mom talks on the phone with someone I don't know and then goes out to meet them. I overheard it. Even this business trip, she packed her bag with lots of pretty clothes and seemed really excited. Mom, this. Damn, just as Emerson predicted. I guess I still have a lot to learn. Frustrated, I instinctively cradled my head in my hands. Having taken over as the manager in place of my husband and determined not to be underestimated because I'm a woman, I thought I had honed my ability to judge people over decades. But it seems Ashley was the clever one this time. Even if Ashley is having an affair as Glenn suggests, there's honestly nothing we can do about it now. The only evidence we have is the word of young Glenn. If it's chalked up to a child's misunderstanding, that's the end of it. Without definitive evidence that leaves no room for denial, they could easily slip away. And if we're wrong, they might hide their tracks even more cleverly from now on. As I pondered what to do, Emerson's phone rang. Emerson, your phone. It's okay. That sound means I got a message. But excuse me for a sec. After lightly patting Glenn on the back, she stood up. Pulling out her mobile phone from her pocket, it seemed to be good news for Emerson. A sly smile crossed her face. What's with that creepy grin? Looks like our prey got caught in the net. She displayed a grin not suitable for a child to see but ensured Glenn couldn't see the mobile phone's screen. She turned towards me. Again, I found myself cradling my head. Emerson, when did you start planning this? Well, when indeed. But more importantly, Mom, call bro. Ask him to come back as soon as possible, before Ashley returns. Yeah. You sure are demanding. Sighing for what felt like the umpteenth time, I activated my mobile phone. It felt wrong to disturb work for this, but it was a crisis for my son's family. Shaking off the hesitation, I dialed Connolly's number. That night, an unseasonably heavy rain poured down as if foreshadowing the difficult times ahead. Occasional thunder rumbled in the distance, and every time it sounded, Connolly alternately looked towards the ceiling, accurately the door leading to the upstairs hallway and stairs. Glenn was supposed to be sleeping in his room upstairs. He was probably worried that Glenn might be scared of the thunder. The glances towards the hallway were surely out of concern for Ashley's safety, who was due to return today. Maybe I should go pick her up. This conversation was repeated several times. With the heavy rain, there was concern that buses might be halted. Too severe for her to make it back on her own. Driven by such concerns, Connolly repeatedly tried to go to the nearest bus stop to pick up Ashley. But Emerson and I desperately stopped him. If you go to pick her up now, everything will be over. Plus, if Ashley was really in trouble, she'd at least send a message, I argued. Exactly. Bro, why did you rush back from work if not for this? Emerson added. It's not like I abandoned anything. I made sure to finish up what I could before coming back, Connolly defended himself. This exchange was repeated numerous times. Amidst the sound of the rain, it seemed like we heard the front door unlocking. Instantly, the three of us fell silent. Listening closely, the sound of the door opening was followed immediately by Ashley's voice saying, I'm home. Emerson signaled with her eyes. I'll go. Pretending to be the concerned sister rushing out to greet Ashley, who had returned in the heavy downpour. Welcome back, Ashley. You're soaked, aren't you? Here, take this towel. Thanks, Emerson. I thought I'd be okay, but my umbrella didn't help much. My carry-on got wet too. Can I just leave it in the entrance for now? No problem. If we prioritize the carry-on and you catch a cold, I'll get scolded by bro. Laughter was heard. It hardly sounded like a conversation between those about to confront and be confronted. Connolly next to me still looked anxious. I had briefly explained the situation over the phone at that time, and Emerson had shown him the thing she had obtained. So, he should know what's about to happen. But understandably, he was anxious. Their voices, almost mocking Connolly's state of mind, approached the living room. As the door connecting the hallway and the living room opened,
Hello!
"Welcome back, Ashley." "Welcome back, Mom." We greeted Ashley as neutrally as possible, trying to hide any emotion in our voices. Perhaps surprised by my presence in Connolly, who wasn't supposed to be back yet. Her face stiffened in shock. But soon, she put on a forced smile. "I'm back, Mahalia." "Wow, this rain is terrible." "Did Connolly come back because of the rain, too?" Ashley acted as if nothing was amiss, unaware that everyone else knew everything. "Ashley, there's something I need to confirm. You were on a business trip, right?" Ashley's hand, holding the towel, paused momentarily, but then resumed. "What are you talking about, Connolly? Are you and Mahalia possibly misunderstanding me for cheating?" She waved her hand in denial, pretending nothing happened. Unable to tolerate such obvious acting any longer, Emerson behind Ashley presented her mobile phone. "Can you still keep up this act after seeing this, Ashley?" Ashley's face turned pale. Displayed was a single image. Though taken from a distance and likely zoomed in, the quality was clear thanks to modern technology. It unmistakably showed Ashley arm in arm with an unfamiliar man, looking intimate. "Sorry, but something was off with your behavior, Ashley, so I asked someone from another delivery service to keep an eye out. You said you didn't have any brothers, right? Even if that was your dad, he looks way too young and nothing like you. So, Ashley, who is this man?" "Who?" "He's a colleague from work." "A colleague? Do married people these days link arms with their colleagues and do this and that?" With deliberate exaggeration, ensuring Ashley couldn't escape, Emerson started sliding through the photos one after another. What appeared next were scenes of the two walking through bustling streets, looking very much like a couple. Some photos even captured them kissing without concern for onlookers or entering what appeared to be a hotel on a different day. "See, here's the evidence. Wouldn't it be better to just come clean?" Emerson pressed Ashley with a look that seemed devilishly delighted at having found her toy. I couldn't help but wonder whom she had taken after at that moment. "Shut up, you single woman!" With those harsh words, Ashley shrugged off Emerson's arm. Ashley's sudden change caught Connolly, Emerson, and even me by surprise, freezing us in shock for a moment. "Yeah, you're right. I was having an affair. Are you happy now?" "Ashley, let's calm down, okay?" "Calm down? What are you talking about, you worthless husband? I married you for your money. And I never wanted kids, but you went and screwed that up too. What are you going to do about it, huh?" The slap resounded as loudly as the rain, leaving a silence dominated only by the downpour. My palm throbbed with delayed pain. When was the last time I had slapped someone? Perhaps when Connolly or Emerson was young? Or even earlier? But that didn't matter now. "Enough of this, you're embarrassing yourself," I quietly observed Ashley, who was touching her slapped cheek. In her shocked eyes, my stern gaze was reflected sharply. "You married for the money? Marriage isn't something you trivialize. It's about wanting to spend your life with someone, regardless of their income. If you love money so much, marry it. Is your affair partner richer than Connolly? Then go, marry him right now." Snorting, it seems Ashley recovered from the shock of being slapped. She gritted her teeth and glared at us with all her might. But to me, this was nothing more than a puppy trying to seem fierce, especially compared to the opponents I faced back in my rebellious days. "Fine. I'll leave this house myself." With those words, Ashley threw the towel she was holding and stormed out to the hallway. Soon after, the front door was slammed shut, as loudly as the rain. The living room returned to a state where only the sound of rain prevailed. Emerson, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Bro. Perhaps worried that her well-intentioned actions had inadvertently hurt her brother more than expected. Tentatively, she reached out to Connolly, who quietly stood up from the sofa. Sorry, Emerson, Mom. I'm going to my room. Connolly, looking utterly defeated, followed Ashley out to the hallway. His ascent to the second floor was visible through the open door, indicating he truly went back to his room. Mom, Emerson's previous bravado was nowhere to be seen. Uncharacteristically, Emerson looked as if she was on the verge of tears. I pulled her close and hugged her. You did nothing wrong. Sooner or later, that woman's true nature would have been revealed. Perhaps Connolly was turning a blind eye for Glenn's sake, letting things get worse. If you acted thinking of Connolly's best interest, stand tall. The rest is up to him to overcome. I stroked her back, as if comforting a small child. Then, perhaps reaching her limit, I could hear her sobbing over my shoulder. As the rain continued to mask our sorrows, regrets, and wounds, the night deepened, marking the collapse of a family. The day after those events, I found myself at a loss. How to explain Ashley's actions to Glenn was the question. While it was Connolly's place as the parent, given his state, it was uncertain if he could explain it well even after some time had passed. Yet, whether it was my place to intervene as just the grandmother was also unclear. Sadly, my concerns were unnecessary, as it seemed Glenn had overheard the heated argument involving Ashley the previous night. Mom left home, didn't she? I heard her angry voice yesterday. She's gone to someone unknown, hasn't she? Glenn mentioned this upon realizing his mom hadn't returned home that morning. While Emerson awkwardly tried to console him, Glenn, trying not to worry her, smiled bravely and said, It's okay, Emerson. Mom looked really happy when she was talking on the phone with that unknown person. Happier than when she talks to Dad. It seemed the child had his own thoughts about witnessing his mother's actions. Glenn had accepted reality more firmly than expected. As for Connolly, who seemed shockingly affected at that time, he also emerged from his room the next day, likely realizing he couldn't afford to dwell in sadness with his son still there. I was relieved, fearing he might shut himself away in shock. I hope this turns into a case of after rain comes fair weather. With that wish, I glanced outside the window to a refreshing blue sky, as if the previous day's rain had never happened. Time has passed since that day. Since then, Ashley and Connolly haven't met, but it seems they've officially divorced through mediation. Custody, of course, went to Connolly. There was one instance of contact from Ashley post-divorce. According to Connolly, the man Ashley had an affair with, whom she believed was single, turned out to be married with children and involved in legal troubles. Ashley, having been abandoned by him and unable to pay the compensation demanded in their divorce, pleaded with Connolly, her ex-husband. Of course, he rejected her plea. After the incident, Connolly resigned from his job and joined the company I run, despite it offering a significantly lower salary. He said he wanted to spend more time with Glenn. Though the reason involves my dear grandson, I have no intention of spoiling them. Our small company, now a trio, continues its modest operation, yet feels livelier than before. Seeing what happened to Bro makes me think I'm better off working, Emerson remarked. Don't say that. That was just a case of choosing the wrong partner. Marriage can be good, depending on the situation. Connolly responded without pausing his computer work. That's because you're a man. For women, it's usually about when they'll do the housework, when they'll have kids, and all the nagging from everyone around them. Just let them say what they want. Hey, Emerson, you've stopped working. Reminded, she resumed working with a childlike yes, and started moving her hands again. Then, the hurried footsteps of a child approached. Grandma, I've finished folding the clothes. Is that so? Thank you, Glenn. As I patted the head of my approaching grandson, he smiled back happily. Like Connolly and Emerson in their youth, Glenn helped with house chores when he had no plans with friends. Well, Glenn has worked hard. Connolly, why don't you take a break with Glenn? That's unfair. I want a break too. You've been all talk since a while ago. Your break is still far off. How mean! Emerson started to fake cry. Approaching Emerson, Glenn said, Emerson, he who does not work, neither shall he eat, you know. At Emerson's exaggerated reaction, clutching her chest, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Glenn, where did you learn such a phrase? I forgot, he said with an angelic smile. Glenn managed to make not only me and Connolly but even Emerson laugh along. After the turmoil with Ashley, I wondered what would become of us, but here we are, the four of us, sharing laughs together. Our days are not without challenges, but they are filled with joy. Have we really reached after rain comes fair weather? I hope that this ground we've settled on remains solid, allowing our peaceful days to continue.